What is up, guys? I'm gonna try to make this quick because I want to answer a question that I get a lot, which is, what does it cost and how do you build a house? Now, this would be good for people who are wanting to build the house themselves, or you're getting ready to build a house with a contractor, whatever else it is. This will help you understand the process of what it takes to build a home and give you some ideas on what to plan for, what to think about, what to ask your contractor about, or what to plan for before you open up a can of worms building your own house. My name is John, and I've built for years. I'm a builder, as well as I educate people in the building space, trade space. So I've been doing that for years, and I've learned a lot over the years and have gotten better at planning and being more efficient with the build. So let's just start from the beginning. A lot of people think the beginning of the build is excavation, goes out, you see a bunch of big machines, they dig dirt, they do whatever. That's, in my opinion, like step 3 or 4. First step is planning, right? Now, I think the first step of planning is, what do you want out of the house? Are you looking for a massive house? Are you looking for a smaller house? Are you looking for a really efficient high-end house? Or are you looking for just general square footage? I usually lean towards less is more, right? For example, you could build a 3,000 square foot house, but if your budget doesn't reach that far, then what you're doing is you're getting a lot of square footage, but you're not getting the home that you want, because you're going to end up, and trust me, you don't think you will, but you're going to end up being like, we blew our budget. Now we got to settle for this finish. We got to settle for this finish. We got to settle for this design. We got to settle for this. Now, if you decide to go, hey, my budget's going to do this, I think I should probably scale down to 2,000, 1,500 square feet, but be more efficient with my budget. This means you have a little more room for, say, a steel I-beam, an LVL, a glue lam, some reinforced posts and columns that can give you a bigger feel home for less than just adding 1,000 extra square feet. So those are things that you want to talk about. It's like, what are the bedrooms that we want? How do we want the bedrooms to be placed? How do we want things to feel? Are we looking for 2 stories? Are we looking for 3 stories? Are we looking for more of a farmhouse style where it's more just one level, but it's spread out? Those are things you need to figure out. And if you already have a lot or land that you've purchased, it's understanding what that land will allow. If you're on a 7,000 square foot lot and you want 2,500, 3,000 square feet, you're most likely going to have to go vertical or go with basement space. If you're living on land, obviously you can spread out more. You have a little bit more freedom to how you want to place the house. Those are things that need to be understood before I would even really design exactly what the house is. Once you've solidified, okay, this is the space that we want or that we have to build, this is the space that we have for the house, here's what we have to do, right? We want this amount of square footage. We only have a 7,000 square foot lot. We're obviously gonna go vertical, or we have, 50 acres. We'll do whatever we want. Plan that. The next thing I would do is understand your sun. And this is a step most builders skip, I would have to say, is understanding where your sun is. It's a huge benefit to understand where the sun rises and sets in the summer, where it rises and sets in the winter, and track that between the year, and you'll understand, okay, this is where the sun's going to be at these times of the year. Now, depending on where you live, right, winter months are going to be colder, obviously, unless you're in like Hawaii or California. So understanding, hey, if I'm going to have big windows and doors somewhere, I should probably place them where the sun's going to hit them in the winter months, and then I should place my big windows and doors where the shade's going to hit them in the summer months. This is going to save you on heating and cooling significantly, as well as just the life of your windows and the life of your home in general, because they're not getting blatant sun during the summer, and then some of your windows are getting shaded in the winter. You're not paying as much, or you're going to be paying more for heating in the winter, and you're going to pay more for cooling in the summer, because you set your house up to where you're getting blasted by the sun when it's hot and you're missing the sun when it's cold. Whereas if you plan a little bit, you can actually be utilizing that thermal energy in the winter to cool off or to warm up your home, and you'll be shading your house from the sun in the summer, which will make your house cooler. Those are things to do while you're planning, while you're drawing up your designs and all that other stuff. I mean, something as simple as what we did here, you set a pin where the sun is. You're like, okay, in the summer, this is where the sun is. In the winter, this is where the sun is, right? It's coming this way. So you understand that, and then you can kind of tweak your house. Because, I mean, I've walked out to build sites like this, and I'm like, do I want it this way, or do I angle it this way? Do I angle it this way? And then you can pull string lines and all that other stuff. So that is one step that I would highly recommend talking to your builder about, or doing yourself if you are a self-building person. The next step, once you have all that plan, you know your footprint, you know what you're doing, is really lock in what foundation you're going to be using, right? I'm a big fan of pier and beam. I'm a huge fan. You guys know I've made videos about pier and beam foundations. To give you a quick recap, I like pier and beam for multiple reasons. One, it's better on your joints. It has deflection, and deflection means the floor gives when you walk on it. Not noticeably, you're not like bouncing, but it has give, right? When you stand on concrete, you can feel that your joints will start to compact. It's hard on your body, whereas pier and beam, it's lumber, so it will flex a little bit, which gives your joints just a little bit of give when you walk. That's why I love pier and beam. Second reason I love pier and beam is you can run all of your mechanicals post-framing of the house. Not post-frame, but after building the house. Whereas for a slab on grade, you're gonna need to run all of your plumbing that you need. You're also gonna run any electrical if you have in-floor outlets or stuff like that through your slab. And once they're in there, there's really no going back. So if you run your plumbing or your electrical in your slab, once you pour your slab and frame your walls, and the first time you walk into the space fully enclosed, you're like, man, I don't know if I like the toilet here. Now that I'm in this space, I feel like I want it here. That's a big change order to move a toilet flange 12 inches this way, right? That's a big deal because the way the house feels, you had an outlet that you were going to put by the corner of your couch, and now you want it 2 feet this way. That's a big change order. So things like that are why I really like pier and beam, because I'll build the entire house, roof, windows, doors, walls, and then I'll be like, okay, this is where the toilet was supposed to go. I kind of want it this way a little bit. And none of that's ran yet. So those are a few reasons in the build process why I really like pier and beam foundation. So once you have all that solidified, I'm doing a pier and beam foundation house. I'm doing 2,500 square feet. We're doing a single level or a split level or a 2-story. The sun's rising here and setting here in the summer. The sun's rising here and setting here in the winter. You're gonna lay that out on your land. You're gonna mark it out, and that's when the excavators show up and they start excavating and moving dirt to get ready for your piers or your slab. Once you get that done, if you're doing slab, you're going to have your electrical and your plumbing ran in the slab before the slab's poured. If you're doing pier and beam, you're just gonna go straight to digging your piers, pouring your concrete, and building your house. Slab, you're going to get the plumbing and electrical done, then they're gonna go through and they're gonna pour the concrete and get that solidified. Once that's done, you're going to start framing your walls, framing your roof, sheathing it all. Then you're most likely going to go to roofing is going to start. Once the roofers are done, you'll probably be kind of high-fiving there with the roofing being done and putting in windows and doors and siding. Once you have windows, doors, and roofing done, that's what we call dried in. That's where the interior is now separated completely from the elements on the exterior. This is when, if you're on a pier and beam, the mechanical process starts. That's when you start running your HVAC. That's when you start running your electrical. That's when you start running your plumbing. All those things start getting ran in once you're dried in. That's a huge phase. That's a huge phase because that's when you can walk into your house and turn lights on. That's when you can go in there and it's cool or it's hot, depending on whatever it is outside. That's when the build really starts feeling like a house. Past this phase is where it splits, right? This is where the question of how much does it cost to build a house is such an unanswerable question without a significant amount of details, right? I have flooring samples behind me. They range from $1.90 a square foot to $7 a square foot. One of those choices, one way or the other, can make your house significantly more expensive. Imagine paying $7 a square foot for a 3,000 square foot house versus paying $1.90 per square foot for a 3,000 square foot house. Those numbers can get really high, and that can blow budgets pretty quick, which is, again, why I said at the beginning, sometimes less is more. With these steps, you really got to think about the little things that a lot of people don't think about. Stuff as simple as HVAC registers, light switch plates, countertops, cabinets, cabinet pulls, backsplashes, shower tile, shower waterproofing, any of those things that are just the small stuff. You may only need 20 square feet of backsplash, but that's a couple $100, right? And if you're having someone else install it, it's probably a couple $1,000. Lights, switch plates. There's a couple $100 right there. All these things add up over time. And that's where a lot of people get burnt on their jobs is they forget that they need, doorknobs. They forget that they're going to need can lights. They forget that they're going to need, shower mixers and shower heads and bathtubs and stuff like that, where I'm not saying everyone forgets all those things, but it's just like, I totally forgot we got to do a bathtub here. I didn't order a bathtub. They framed it out standard. Now you got to find a bathtub that fits the standard. Maybe it doesn't fit your design. I've been there. I'm just saying, I've been there. So this is where things kind of aren't as cookie cutter as plan, excavate, build. Now it goes to decisions, right? Do I want to spend the $7 a square foot on my flooring, or do I want to spend some money on some crown or some baseboard or some wainscoting or some chair rail or a light fixture or some countertops or a sink faucet or a farmhouse sink or apron sink, whatever you call it? Or do I want to step into the master suite and spend some money on a clawfoot tub, which I never understood. I don't understand the bathtub thing. I really don't. My recommendation, don't do a standalone bathtub. It just becomes a place where you lay your clothes or your towels. I just don't get it. And I say that with me putting one in the house that we're building right now because my wife wants one. I'm not here to argue. I'm just saying. I assume in about a year, that's what it's going to be. But it is what it is. Get what you want. Those are things that add up over time, but that's kind of the process is you go through planning, excavation, framing, dry in, and then finishes, or mechanical and then finishes. And all of those are very, very complex to a certain extent. I think people don't realize, but the foundation and framing of the home is the most simple part, in my personal opinion, because it's pretty much ones and zeros, right? It's just 1 + 1 = 2, and you do that all the way down the wall, right? You got 24 on center, 16 on center, whatever it is, and you frame it up, right? Everything else gets more nuanced, and that's where a lot of people get bummed out that they went with the 3,000 square feet or the 6,000 square feet, and they can't afford the finishes that they want because it's so many square feet. Whereas if they shrunk it down just a little bit, they would be able to get the finishes that they want and make the house live like they want it to live by being able to spend money on the glue lamps, the I-beams, the quad fold doors, the windows, the light fixtures, the faucets, the countertops, the cabinets, the refrigerators, the dishwashers, the washers and dryers, stuff like that. So overall, that's kind of my 2 cents on all of this. I know I didn't really keep it as short as I would like, but that's the overall build process. And there's lots of other small things that people tend to forget. I mean, you just got to think about, as a builder, fasteners, right? Anywhere from nails to screws to, you know, trim nails, finish screws, pocket screws. That alone is a couple $1,000 just in fasteners. And then you got waterproofing, the caulking, right? The mastic, the zip tape, the stretch tape. You have the Schluter system for the showers, or if you're using hardy board and a sealant. I mean, a bucket of sealant for a shower is like $60, and you're going to need 7 of those depending on how many bathrooms you have. So all of those little things add up. So as you're going through the planning phase and you're budgeting it, if you're building it yourself, I do this fairly often, and it's still like you got to go through it 7 times before you're confident, and you'll still miss something. But as long as you can miss as little as possible, the better off you're going to be in the whole process. So anyway, I hope this helps somebody. Appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, because I'll be checking your comments and making other videos in accordance to what you guys might want to know. So, and there's also other videos on here of me building a couple different houses. So if you want to check those out, I'd appreciate it. But that's all I got right now. Appreciate y'all. Much love.